Our taste in film may seem destructive, but this is a productive dialogue. Damn it, your mother ate my dog.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Your Mother Ate My Dog, the podcast. I'm your host, Josh, and today I'm pleased to bring you a conversation with the host of the podcast, Your Mother Ate My Dog, Jesse. Today we have an intimate one-on-one sit-down interview where we discuss a specific film. Jesse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
This film, I know you're a big Riddick fan.
Huge.
You have watched the first, second, and third movies, I'm sure.
Well, I've definitely watched the second. I can't really speak to the first and third.
Something that I remembered as I was doing research for what we're going to talk about today. The main character's name is Riddick.
Mm-hmm.
His actual name is like Richard B. Riddick or something, Dick Riddick, if you will.
Yes,
but it reminded me of.
Wow.
It reminded me of a man who died recently, Lance Reddick. Do you know who Lance Reddick is?
He's an actor, yeah?
He's an actor. Yeah, I was in the John Wick movies. He was in Lost for a bit, The Wire.
Mm-hmm. I know him.
Other shows. So their names are similar.
They are. Is it fate? Or did we bring upon his demise?
No, I think he picked the movie. Well, it would have been around the same time as he died. So
maybe right as I picked it.
Yeah. He's in the new White Men Can't Jump movie that's coming out this year.
Oh, that's a movie that needed to be remade, for sure. Didn't Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes just, do it well the first time?
Yeah, I think that was I haven't seen it in a long time, but I'm sure it was a good movie.
I don't think it's supposed to be that great.
Well, let's see what Rotten Tomatoes says about it.
I have a bone to pick with Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, when we later on.
Because you didn't like how they scored this movie?
Just I think how they just rate films in general just seems to be wrong.
We have noticed that it's been less than accurate. White Man Can't Jump has a 77% score.
Okay. So it's probably a steaming pile of garbage if that's what Rotten Tomatoes gave it.
Maybe looking back at it in the year 2023, sure.
Yeah, tough to know without watching it.
Have you seen any movies recently?
I'm so glad you've asked. Including this film, I've watched 5 films since we've last spoken.
Well, tell me more.
Well, I'll go in reverse order. So today, obviously, I watched the Chronicles of Riddick. Finished just 45 minutes ago. Yesterday, I watched Paddington, the first one, in preparation to get around to watching the second one. I've heard so many good things about. The first one was very good.
Right, because of The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
I'd heard about it before, actually, watching that movie. I'd heard it was good. Before that, I watched Singin' in the Rain, the classic from, I think, 1953 or something like that. That was very good. Like, very, very good. It made me realize how talented actors were back then. They just could do so many things very, very well. In this case, singing and dancing. So that was a very nice film. The one before that, I watched The Florida Project.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah. Have you seen that one?
I have not.
It's pretty good. There's a lot of screaming children. So if you don't like the sound of screaming children, I would probably not recommend it. But other than that, it was good. And then another film, the first film I watched, I guess after our last episode, is a movie I know you've watched, The Lobster.
I haven't actually seen it.
Oh, I guess maybe you were talking about watching it for the podcast maybe or something?
It is on my list, yeah.
That movie is a strange movie. And I had a bit of a strange experience watching it because I watched it while I waited in the emergency room at Royal Jubilee Hospital, the place I work. Oh, go on, you say?
Am I going to ask? Yeah, should I be asking questions?
Well, I guess last Friday, we were, I go to races a lot, outrigger canoe races. And part of that process is you have to load the canoes you're taking to the races, like on a trailer. And we do that at a place called Songhees Point, right near the club. And basically you paddle it up to the beach and then you lift it up and you take it over to the trailer. Well, on this beach, very rocky beach, there's a lot of barnacles. It's like not a very clean beach. And I was wearing flip-flops. And I just kind of sliced my foot open on a dirty barnacle. And as such, I was warned, and had my own worries about tetanus, because I haven't gotten a tetanus shot in 20 years. And I was worried enough about it that I went and got an emergency tetanus shot. So I waited a good 5 hours in emergency while I got a tetanus shot. And what better way to do that is than to watch at least one film, which is what I did, The Lobster.
Do they have good Wi-Fi there?
It was not a good viewing experience. A lot of very laggy, and it was a 2-hour movie. It took like 3 hours to watch. But what else was I going to do?
Is that the only way to get a tetanus shot, is to go to the emergency room?
Some pharmacies do, like, you can book an appointment and go there. But the thing was, the next day I was going for a race in Nanaimo. I wouldn't have had time to go to a pharmacy and get the shot. So I figured it'd probably just be best just to get it that day. And it was a pain in the ass, but it was just for peace of mind mostly.
And how's your foot now?
It's fine. To be honest, the cut wasn't like that bad. There's like a, scab going on, but it didn't really hurt too bad. It was mostly just like, it was pretty dirty cut.
Do you think tetanus shots have like a 100% success rate?
I think so.
It's about, virtually 100% for tetanus and 97% for diphtheria. Don't know what that is, but
doesn't sound pleasant. So yeah, those were the movies I watched since the last episode. Now, what about you? Did you watch any movies?
Yeah, but before we get into that, what do you think of The Lobster?
The Lobster was...
If you had to give it a score.
If I were to give it a score, I would give it probably a 7.5.
I think it would be a good podcast movie, but we just haven't gotten there, and it sounds like we're not ever going to get there now. So
I thought for sure you had said you'd seen it. I'm sorry to ruin that for you.
I've had plans to see it
recently,
but we ended up watching something else instead. So I watched The Menu a second time instead of watching The Lobster.
Oh, well. It's your own fault then. I don't feel guilty.
The Menu is a great movie. You should watch it.
I've heard good things, yes. I've been in a movie watching mood lately, so I might get to it.
I have seen 3 movies. Not since we watched Mulholland Drive, but since we watched Super Mario Brothers.
Okay.
But we didn't talk about it last week, so.
Okay, well, hit me with it.
The first movie, the one that I watched most furthest away from today, Knock at the Cabin, the M. Night Shyamalan movie that just came out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big M. Night Shyamalan fan.
Mm-hmm.
MNS guy. I thought it was pretty good. It could have been a lot better.
He's pretty hit and miss.
There was a lot of like a good premise, a lot of promise.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't hit as it was based on a book, but he completely changed the ending. I give that one like a 7.5 as well.
Okay.
Then I watched another newer movie, kind of like a horror comedy movie called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Mm-hmm. I haven't heard
You
of
may
that
have
one.
seen while, going through. I think it's on Prime or Netflix. I don't know, one of them. It was
Okay.
okay. It was a 7 out of 10. It's like
Okay.
it's like one of those horror movies in a cabin,
Right.
but they kind of did it a little different, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the most recent movie I watched was The Whale.
Ah.
Brendan Fraser won Best Actor. It was, it was a little sad movie, a little sad film to. I think I watched it last Sunday night, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Gave that one an 8.1 out of 10.
I've heard it's pretty sad. Do you think was it an Oscar-worthy performance? Do you think?
I think he definitely deserved to be nominated and perhaps even win.
Okay.
He
Well, that's
did
good.
great.
Okay. Cool. I was
Thank
thinking.
you.
Speaking of Brendan Fraser, I was thinking of going back and watching George of the Jungle, which is a movie I adored as a child.
Have you seen Encino Man?
I have not seen Encino Man. I've seen clips of Encino Man, but not the whole thing.
Ke Huy Quan, who won Best Supporting Actor for Everything Everywhere All at Once, is apparently in Encino Man.
Was he really?
There's a picture of them in that film, and they're like, "Oh, future Best Supporting Actor and Best Actor." I don't know. We can do Encino Man for the podcast at some point. I'm gonna have to go back to the '90s.
Yes.
I don't know if I've seen that movie.
To a definitively bad film. I think that's supposed to be pretty bad.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But
That's okay. We do that around here sometimes.
speaking of Chronicles of Riddick, I'm just kidding. Am I?
Doesn't sound like you are.
Hard to say. Hard to say. This is a movie that I watched a week ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My bad.
That's okay.
Well, anything else you have? Anything else happening with you? It's almost April. Happy spring equinox.
Yes, we had last week. We had one very lovely day. It was very nice and, dare I say, warm. And then it's kind of been like on a downward spiral since then. It's been like kind of chilly lately.
This week is supposed to be warm.
Oh, that's very nice. Yeah, we caught a glimpse, and then I am looking forward to it coming back. But beyond that, I don't really have anything too exciting to report. Just my tetanus shot.
I guess that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's thrilling. I know.
Chronicles of Riddick,
Mm-hmm.
2004.
Not to be confused. Yeah, not to be confused with the Chronicles of Narnia.
Which is what I want to call it. Is it the Chronicles of Riddick, or is it? Yeah, it is the Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like Vin Diesel?
In general, or in this film?
In general, before seeing this film, what was your Vin Diesel?
He's kind of. I've seen like some clips lately of him like in interviews. He's kind of like he's kind of creepy, like towards women. Have you seen any of those interviews?
No.
I mean, it could have been picking out particularly egregious cases of him being a little awkward and perhaps a little too forward with women interviewers. But I don't know. I feel like if what I saw to the level I saw, it might just be a thing he does in general. So that's kind of what my impression of him lately. I haven't seen a whole lot of films with him in it. I've seen one of the Fast and Furious movies. And I don't think anything else.
Have you seen his Hot Ones episode?
No.
Because there isn't one.
Oh. Well,
That should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah. That is a very telling. That's very telling.
I did watch the Pedro Pascal one. It was very good.
It was very good. It was quite funny, especially at the end. It was one of my favorite like endings. You know, where you like look into the camera. And that was quite
Yeah,
good.
he's just the best.
I love him.
How do you feel about Vin Diesel in this movie?
He had his moments. There was a good mix of bad moments and good moments, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got to say. No, are we diving? Are we getting into it now? You want to go full on into Chronicles of Riddick?
Yeah, unless you want to talk about something else.
No, there's nothing else I want to talk about.
Read any good books lately, or
I haven't been reading a ton lately. I get into like moods, like just like this last week. I've been watching a lot of movies. And it's been a while since I've been in a book reading mood, but when I do, I tend to read a few anyway. But it's been a while.
Ted Lasso season 3 is back. Oh yeah, we have a Ted Lasso to watch. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, Chronicles of Riddick. Let's just dive right into it.
Right. So let's just talk about this from the beginning as strictly a action film. Did you think this delivered as an action film?
Yes, I guess as an action film, I wouldn't have been disappointed. I mean, there's a lot of action in it.
There was a lot of action. I felt myself a few times being like, man, if I was watching this in theaters, it would be like even cooler. There was moments where I thought I was watching something that was cool. And then I was like, wow, if I was watching this in the theater, it would be like amazing probably.
Yeah, there was some like moments visually where it seemed like it was ahead of its time almost.
Yeah, this came out in 2004. It looked quite good for most of it. I mean, there was some not so great parts, but overall it looked quite good. And it made me also think that the budget for this movie must have been astronomical.
It was over 100 million, I think. I think it hit it broke even basically. Yeah, the budget was between 105 and 120 million, and the box office was 115 million.
Okay.
Somehow filmed in Vancouver. I don't know.
What?
Like, I guess because it's mostly underground situation.
I guess
on a set. Is there a set in Vancouver?
I don't know. There must be. There was a lot of set pieces. Like they made a lot of sets, which were quite impressive, I thought. The costuming and the sets I liked a lot. That was a check mark for me. That was good. Of course, I feel like what the biggest problem with a lot of action films is typically the acting isn't very good, which is probably where this movie struggled the most. Would you say?
I would say the acting was not good.
Right. There's definitely no performances that stood out as like purely good. They were all pretty bad. There was a couple that were okay, but yes, overall not very good.
Yeah, I don't know. Vin Diesel is an actor. I just don't see it. I haven't seen many of the Fast and the Furious films, but like acting probably isn't that big on the spectrum in those films.
Right.
So
I've seen Fast 7. That's the only one I've seen, which is probably a little strange, but this movie, I will say, it definitely made me it hinted towards the first film enough times where I'm kind of interested to watch the first one now. And I guess maybe that's a bit telling as to how I feel about this film overall. I would say I had an enjoyable experience overall, which I think
her name was Jack, and now it's not.
Right. Her name did change. Yeah, I feel like probably I liked this film better than you. The way I'm hearing you talk about it.
Well, it just seems like this is the kind of movie that Jesse picks, and Jesse scores better. We've had this a few different times.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you just like these kind of movies more than I like these kind of movies, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I guess especially lately, I've been very good with just being in the right headspace for watching this type of movie. Like I just like, you know what? I know the acting is going to suck, but what else can I appreciate about it? And then I end up really appreciating a lot of the other things about it.
I mean, that's a good thing to get into. Like we talked about expectations a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had high expectations going into this movie because I've heard a lot of good things about Chronicles of Riddick. For people who I live with, like this is a big movie in their family for some reason.
Okay.
Very excited to be like, oh, we're gonna watch this movie, which I was not. I was very surprised to hear. So I was expecting like a good movie, and maybe that is why the score maybe will be. It'll be less than.
It's definitely going to be less than mine, if that's what you're about to say. Yeah, I guess I spoke to a couple of people about this movie, and most people are oh yeah, it's all right. So, I mean, that's within how I feel about this movie. I would say it's not too far off. It's not terrible. I'll say that. And I guess part of the thing I started at the top was my bone to pick with Rotten Tomatoes. I just feel like their scores have been pretty wrong lately. And then as I look at the IMDb scores, but a lot closer to what I've been giving movies. But
So we should be going by the IMDb scores, not the Rotten Tomatoes scores.
We've been going by Rotten Tomatoes for so long, but I guess it has helped a little in terms of, I guess a part of the problem I would sometimes have with films is like, okay, I'm going to watch this film, and I look it up, and immediately, I mean, what happens when you Google a movie? Immediately the Rotten Tomatoes score shows up, and that immediately influence, I guess, how you're going to, it's going to set expectations for you. But since it's been so unreliable lately, I guess it hasn't really been affecting how I feel about going into the film. So that's been a good thing, I suppose.
I know you said last episode that we wouldn't have had to see Pitch Black, the first one. I think it would have helped.
It probably would have. There was definitely a lot more alluding to the first film than I thought there would be. Because I even asked somebody at my work who's seen all three. I was like, do I need to have seen the first one to watch this one? He's like, no. I mean, I guess he didn't have to. I mean, it made sense, but there was definitely a lot of like, oh, this is a character from the last one, and so is this one, and oh, this person died, remember? And it's like, oh, no, I don't remember.
As a casual viewer, it wouldn't have mattered, but we're like a pretty serious movie podcast, so it would have mattered. Yeah, like Keith David's character and Jack/Kyra, two, I guess, bigger characters in Pitch Black, who didn't seem like they weren't anything really in this. I mean, Kyra a little bit because she played a role in the ending, but I didn't appreciate her or him as much as I would have if I had seen the first movie.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely going to watch the first one. Apparently it's a bit more like more of a horror movie than it is an action movie.
It wouldn't have as much of a budget.
That is true.
The Rotten Tomatoes score is quite bigger than the Chronicles of Riddick. It's directed by the same guy. It's directed by the same guy who directed Waterworld.
Oh, a known box office hit.
Oh, sorry. He wrote Waterworld.
Oh, well.
He also wrote The Fugitive starring Harrison Ford.
Oh, see, that's a good movie. So he's had some stinkers and he's had some winners.
There is there's a fourth Riddick movie coming out. It was announced in February. So it should be coming in the next few years.
That's great. I assume that the announcement of that film is why Chronicles of Riddick is on Netflix right now, would be my guess. It's like, oh, there's a fourth one coming out. Oh, I should really watch some of these Riddick movies. Like, oh, hey, look, one's on Netflix. I assume those coincide with each other.
Maybe. Do you know that Vin Diesel's real name is not Vin Diesel?
I could have guessed. What's his real name?
Mark Sinclair.
Yeah, that's a way worse actor name.
he had just been in. He Pitch Black 2000. When did the first Fast and the Furious movie come out?
If I were to guess, before you find out, confirm, probably 99 would be my guess.
2001. So Pitch Black came out first, then Fast and the Furious. And so I guess the success of Fast and the Furious was why Chronicles of Riddick got made with a budget as big as it did, I think. Because like Triple X came out in 2002, so Vin Diesel was the hottest man in the world.
Right.
And then he did The Pacifier in 2005, which I guess ruined his career.
I haven't even heard of that movie.
I saw that movie in theaters. 2005, The Pacifier is an American family action comedy film. After a failed rescue mission, Navy SEAL Shane Wolf, played by Vin Diesel, is assigned a babysitter to the dead man's family. Assigned as babysitter. He fights off Serbian rebels, which probably excites your family.
Okay.
Vin Diesel net worth. How much do you think Vin Diesel's worth?
600 million.
No, 225 million according to Celebrity Net Worth.
Well, good for him.
He's worth 10 times more than Paul Walker. So Paul Walker's also starred in Fast and Furious, but he died in 2013.
Yes, he's dead.
Okay, so how did you feel about the story for Chronicles of Riddick?
The story I thought was pretty interesting.
Sorry, going back to Vin Diesel.
Okay, let's go back.
He was nominated for a Razzie Award for Worst Actor at the 2004 Golden Raspberry Awards.
So this movie?
For this movie, yeah.
What?
Worst actor, but he lost to George W. Bush for Fahrenheit 9/11.
Okay.
The Michael Moore movie.
Right.
Anyways, yeah, this story. I got it seemed like they packed a lot into 2 hours. It was go. It didn't give us any time to breathe, which I thought was a negative.
I kind of like that. I mean, as an action movie, what's the worst part about action movies where they're not doing shit? But that's just
right. Yeah, I guess if you wanted, like, if you go back to another Jesse favorite movie from this year, Idle Hands. I mean, they kind of, well, maybe I shouldn't. The scores might be the same for me, but it just, for me anyways, I like to breathe a little bit for a movie because like I don't know really what's going on, and it's quite fast, and I like to, give the characters some work.
Right.
Like Toombs, like he was kind of an interesting character, but they kind of just threw a whole lot at us with him. So
that's true. I did like Toombs, but yeah, it was like you would think maybe what was going on between Riddick and the Lord Marshal, like that whole storyline would be the whole film, and then they put Toombs and like the mercs in it as well, and I guess it does perhaps become a little busy. So I can see that. And not enough time. And I did feel like there wasn't enough time because I thought Toombs was one of the more interesting characters. But maybe I think he was maybe perhaps one of the better actors, like the best performance. There was some bad writing, which I think might have been part of this film's problem in general. And so you can tell when, he's got to say things and you're like, yeah, that wasn't his fault. That was just given a bad line. But beyond that, I mean, I thought he was pretty interesting. I wish there was more of him.
Yeah. Yeah. He hasn't done a whole lot of stuff. I didn't recognize him, but
no. One person I did recognize in this movie, who I feel like every movie I've seen him in, save for perhaps one film series, he's like just terrible in everything he's in. You know who I'm talking about?
Are you talking about like the main Lord Marshall guy?
No, Carl Urban.
Well, you haven't seen The Boys.
I haven't seen The Boys. Is he good in that?
He's excellent in that. It's the whole show.
I just feel like he's like Gerard Butler. He's just like in every shitty film.
Because he has an accent. He didn't have an accent in this movie, but he's from New Zealand, I think.
But man, he was bad.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
But I mean, I like him in Lord of the Rings, but they don't give him too many lines in that movie. So
makes sense if he's New Zealand.
Yep, that does make sense. So yeah,
I mean, Judi Dench is in this.
Yeah, I was about to say, Judi Dench, she was pretty good. I mean, it would make sense. She's a pretty well-regarded actress.
Why would she want to be in this movie? Like, what sold her on this movie, I would think?
I don't know. I don't know if she's done a lot of films like this. Sometimes I guess sometimes you just gotta, you gotta pay the bills.
I mean, she's a dame. You shouldn't get paid for that.
I don't know.
She's still alive.
Yes, she is. She just did a movie like last year, Belfast, or I guess that was a couple years ago. She was in Cats.
Sure, yeah. Colm Feore, Lord Marshall, a Canadian actor. Looks a lot like Pierre Trudeau.
In a way, yes.
He's the dad in Umbrella Academy. That's what I know him from. Show that you hate now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, acting. Acting was my score. It's middle of the road for acting. Acting was middle of the road. Vin Diesel. The Riddick, the main character, the movie should revolve around him.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard. It's hard for me to get behind Richard.
Yeah, I would say, like I said before, I thought a lot of the problem was the writing. And there was like some bad lines. Like, it's been a while since I've smelled beautiful. It's like, good Lord, that's the stupidest line I've ever heard. I rolled my eyes on that one. But like he was told, I mean, how could anyone make that a cool line? That's just like you're just setting one up for disaster. And there was a couple other like that. I thought perhaps in general his performance wasn't like dreadful.
No,
but
like
you're right.
5 out of 10.
Yeah, like not amazing. Yeah, you would maybe want a little more out of the lead.
Yeah. What else? Story. We talked about acting. We talked about. Filmed in Vancouver, took place in the year 2593.
Very specific.
There was some green screen stuff that was pretty obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Him going down a rope, or when he was at kind of the beginning of the film when he was caught and tied to a rope, and he was doing they lowered him down.
Mm-hmm.
It looked fake, but then he was doing like the weird flips to get back up the rope.
Yes,
that was pretty. That was cool. Okay,
it was.
I'll
cool.
give him that. But
I liked that whole like prison sequence. I thought that was kind of pretty fun. I mean, it was weird when there was like those. I don't know what they were. Beasts. They just like let loose. Those looked kind of bad. I didn't really get why they were doing that. But it was kind of cool seeing like when they were on the surface, like the fire was coming because it was so
crematoria.
hot. Crematoria, yeah. I like the whole crematoria thing.
the issue with that, and perhaps this is an issue with me watching movies, watching sci-fi movies in general, but shouldn't Vin Diesel have been burned?
Yes. Yes, it was not a very realistic. Very true.
That's okay. We're past that.
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not, I don't, I guess just I wanted to reiterate perhaps a little was I thought the costuming was cool and the sets were cool. Just to reiterate on that. I found myself enjoying those.
The film's broader fantasy elements came from Dungeons and Dragons. Apparently, Vin Diesel is a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh.
Judi Dench was performing at the Haymarket Theatre, which is, I guess, in England.
Mm-hmm.
Vin Diesel sends her flowers with an offer to be in Chronicles of Riddick, and then she said yes. So flowers won Judi Dench over.
Well, that's all it takes, I guess, sometimes.
We watched the shorter version, but there is a director's cut, which is longer.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what more that gives us, but
it was pretty long for an action movie as it is. It was like 2 hours.
I think they could have spaced it out and made it 2 films.
Yeah.
But, that's fine.
Yeah.
A sequel comes out 10 years later. Dave Bautista, who's in Knock at the Cabin, is in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So is Carl Urban.
Oh, yeah. He returns. I will say I'm definitely going to watch at least what's it called? Pitch Black?
Pitch Black, yeah. Which
Yeah.
is kind of what you see when you're asleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to watch that.
It's not on anything, so you'll have to...
I'm sure the Pick-a-Flick has it. This, I would also like to say, was the first film in a while I didn't rent from Pick-a-Flick.
Thank you, Netflix.
Yes. I like some of the movies were definitely on things, but I rented them anyway. But I was like, yeah, why spend? I don't want to spend money. I mean, I like did the math. I spent $5 every week for 52 weeks. That really adds up.
It does add up, yeah. It's like you can buy the place.
Yeah, in no time.
They do have 2 versions of Pitch Black, a DVD and a Blu-ray.
Well, that's so exciting. And maybe they'll have the film that you're picking. Have you checked that already?
The film that I'm picking is on Prime. Do you have Prime?
I do.
It's on Prime.
Okay. So that's
it's also on Stars. In case
yes.
you finally have Stars. But it would have it would most likely be in Pick-a-Flick because it is a movie from the decade of the 2010s.
Okay. Well, do you want to get on to our final scoring?
Yeah, sure. If
Okay.
that will make you happy.
It would.
Okay, well, since you made me go first last time, you can go first this time.
Okay.
Chronicles of Riddick.
I'd be happy to. So for acting, yes, it was not amazing. And of course, I do like to try to give it a little bit of credit in that it is an action movie. And maybe perhaps acting is not really what you're going to the film for, but that doesn't mean that the acting has to be bad. I've seen action films with good acting before, like, I don't know, True Lies and The Mask of Zorro, perhaps to name a few. This one, I thought perhaps the bigger problem was the writing. There were some terrible, terrible lines. No one could have delivered them well. And but the acting wasn't so bad that it was all I noticed. There was definitely problems with it, but it was not like detrimental to the film. I think for acting, as we sort of discussed before, and we were sort of alluding to, it's kind of like right down the middle. Acting, I'd give it a 5.
Yeah, 5, huh? I still think Vin Diesel's a good actor. He's just like a guy who has a look, a specific look,
Mm-hmm.
and they just pay him millions of dollars to kind of talk in a deep voice and shoot guns.
Mm-hmm.
But since he is, the star of the movie, he needs to be an intriguing character that you want to watch and root for. But it just didn't hit the way that it should have hit for me, and I think that maybe negatively affected the overall score for acting for me. Nobody else really stood out with a good performance. I mean, Judi Dench, sure, mediocre all around, and I think that kind of brought me down. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 10.
Okay. I will briefly say, as it does sort of pertain to acting, this movie definitely does not pass the Bechdel test. I don't even think. The women don't even talk to each other at all. I don't think.
There is one scene where Judi Dench and Thandie Newton, they are talking. It's the scene where Judi Dench is, she can move. Thandie Newton opens a door, like a floor door,
right,
and she passes past it. But they might be talking about a guy. They're talking about Riddick. So
they're definitely talking about Riddick. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'll go first for ending.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I give ending a 5 out of 10. The whole soul extraction stuff interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Lord Marshall, a bad villain. You want him to die. He dies, and we all knew he was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have a hard time remembering the ending. So like pulling a Jesse, the ending happens like a day later. I didn't really remember what happened,
right,
which I guess is not a good thing.
No.
But then I looked it up a little bit, and I'm like, okay, well that's fine. So 5 out of 10.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, you're not too far off from me as well. The ending, I thought it was kind of cool that I guess they were both going for the Marshall. What's his name? Something Marshall.
Lord.
Yeah, that's the one. Both Carl Urban's Vaco and Riddick, when they were fighting Lord Marshall at the end, and like Riddick predicts where he's going to go, gets him on the top of the head with a knife. That was kind of cool. But then that's like right where it kind of just ends right there. And then all the people bow to him because he killed the Lord or whatever.
Sets up a sequel.
It does set up for the sequel. So yeah, perhaps a little lazy. I don't know. Yeah, a little forgettable. I mean, just finished it an hour ago, and I can tell I'm gonna forget it pretty soon. I'll give it about the same as you, a 5.
So you're telling me you gave acting a 5 and an ending a 5, and you assume you're gonna give a score bigger than my score?
Yes.
Okay, well I'll go first then, so we'll end on a positive note.
Okay.
Wow. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
So sorry. I just kicked something. Okay. So, like I said before, this movie had a lot of expectations for me.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Rotten Tomatoes score 29%, and I'm like, oh, it's not going to be good. But then I was told firsthand that no, it's a great movie. I remember it. You'll like it. It's met with a lot of praise. I thought the visual effects weren't bad. Like they're pretty decent for a 2004 movie. A little surprised. Some parts were obviously green screen, but like that's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But then they packed a lot of story and action into the 2 hours. And I guess that's good for some people like yourself who love action movies. But I'm getting older now, and I like breaks.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just sit maybe that's why I haven't watched many of the Fast and the Furious movies. But I just can't sit and watch something like that for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the acting wasn't all that great. And unlike yourself, it did not make me want to watch the first or third movies in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave it a 5 out of 10.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah, I'd just like to say, I'd address something that you said. I don't love action films. I just go into them with, I think, the right state of mind and enjoy them for what they are, but I don't seek them out usually.
Didn't you say that Rush Hour is your favorite movie franchise?
I have never said that. I don't even like Rush Hour 1 very much. I really like Rush Hour 2, and I like Jackie Chan.
Interesting.
But, yeah. And anywho, I like some action comedies, which I would classify those as. I wouldn't classify this as an action comedy, that's for sure. Yeah, but seeing it as an action film and perhaps ignoring the acting a little more because of that, I was able to appreciate things like the set and the costuming. And actually, I didn't mention this, the sound design was very good as well. I was watching this with headphones. It sounded awesome. And I could tell that there was a big budget. And one of the few times I think where there's been a big budget, and I kind of like appreciated that there was a big budget. Like I could tell there was, and I was like glad for it because it made the film better, I thought. And I did like that there was a lot of action and not very much downtime. I think the downtime is what kills these types of movies sometimes. But this movie didn't really didn't struggle with that. That's for sure. Lots of fighting. There were some ridiculous fight sequences. I mean, Riddick does a suplex on a guy. There was a full-on suplex, and I thought I laughed out loud when I saw that. So it was a little over the top at times, but I could appreciate it. And so yeah, I guess taking those all into account, the score might surprise you a little, but maybe not that much. I'm giving this movie a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay, that's great.
I've definitely found it enjoyable. It was not boring.
And that's all that you really wanted out of a movie.
Yeah, out of an action movie anyway. I think it's bad action movies are boring. This was not boring.
It's the second week in a row that you've picked a bigger score than mine.
Well, things are changing around here.
The Chronicles of Riddick. Our first Vin Diesel movie, probably. Our last, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for giving your opinion. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the next Your Mother and My Dog, the podcast, which you're the host of.
Yeah, one of them anyway.
Circling the joke from the beginning of the episode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, then we got to get to the movie for next week. If you could tell me, I'm just assuming you haven't seen this movie. I don't know if you have or not.
Okay.
I'm going to assume you haven't.
Okay.
But who is your favorite superhero?
Who is my favorite superhero of all time? Not film depicted, but just in general.
Just of all time, yeah.
The Flash.
Okay, who's your favorite Marvel superhero?
Gosh. I don't know. I don't really care. Maybe, I guess, Captain America.
Oh, that's a great answer. Captain America. Chris Evans, a wonderful actor, stars in our next film. 2013 film that comes from the same mind as Parasite. It's from the same director and writer of Parasite.
Okay.
It's a apparently it's being made, or it is made into a TV show that I just found out about while Googling the movie name recently.
Mm-hmm.
We're watching the 2013 movie Snowpiercer,
Okay.
available on Amazon Prime. It's Bong Joon-ho, the Parasite guy.
Yeah.
Tilda Swinton's in it. It's mostly in English. It's apparently 80. They made a on the Wikipedia. It says it's almost 85% of the film's dialogue is in English. So subtitles on for this one.
Okay.
It had a budget of 40 million, one of the most expensive South Korean productions ever. I know it doesn't matter to you, but it has a very high Rotten Tomatoes score.
Right. I can see that. I'm looking at it now. I like movies on trains.
I know very little about it, but it seems like it's very very popular movie. It's a movie with a lot of praise, I should say.
Well, I'm excited for it. It looks good. I think I've heard of it, but definitely not seen any clips from it, anything beyond that.
It does have a 2-hour time, which will be good if you have to visit the hospital anytime soon.
Yes, I'll keep it in my back pocket for as late as I possibly can, in case I do have to go to the hospital.
I also have to tell you that I can't actually do the podcast next Wednesday.
Okay.
But that's not for this podcast. I don't know why I've included it in the podcast, but just so we all know, we can't do it the same day and time. So
Okay.
Episode 52, Chronicles of Riddick. Thank you so much for choosing it.
You're very welcome. Thank you very, very much for watching it and talking about it.
I do want to watch The Lobster at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those movies that it's like The Lighthouse now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's a movie I want to see because I've heard things about it, but it's never been on the top of the list of things to watch when I have an opportunity to watch something.
Well, get to it.
Earlier, I said that the podcast would be 53 minutes and 50 seconds, and
That's a
pretty
minute
close.
from now.
Pretty close, yeah. What can we talk about? So baseball season, huh? It's coming up.
Oh, it's Shohei Ohtani and
Hey.
Good old Mike Trout.
Mike Trout, yeah, good. Big Los Angeles Angels fan, huh?
I love them. They're gonna win the whole thing. They got the two best players.
What's the last video game you played?
The last video game I played?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I bought.
Don't really.
So I have a Nintendo Switch, and I have a lot of spare time these days while working because I have to work until at least 5:00, and a lot of times I finish delivering before 5:00. So I normally have about an hour and a half to kill time. So I was looking to buy a video game and just bring my Switch and play while I wait.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that there are 3 Grand Theft Auto games on sale for $40.
Oh, really?
Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas.
Classics.
So I bought that. Yeah, and I'm working my way through them right now.
I would say that Grand Theft Auto 3 is one of the games I have probably the most hours in out of any video game I've ever played.
I'm about 20% done, and it's very easy. A lot easier than I remember it being.
Mm-hmm. I just remember trying to get getting 5 stars, and also like trying to get to the other islands early, which I got very good at doing. Because there's a place you can go steal a boat, and then there's also a place you can go steal a plane. But yes, that was always a lot of fun. Getting a Banshee, driving around real fast.
Yeah, great game, great series, great episode of the podcast, and that's all we want.
So that's all you could really ask for.
Yeah, so I guess thank you so much, everybody.
I guess you're welcome.
You, me, the listeners, we appreciate it.
Yeah, Greg and Ben, I want you to perhaps tell me what you thought of this episode. Give me one thing you liked and one thing you didn't like about this episode.
Some constructive criticism.
Yeah, but make sure it's constructive. If it's not constructive, there will be hell to pay.
It's like a perfect episode, so I don't know what could have been better, but
I know. It was very Your Mother Ate My Dog-ish.
Yeah, we look forward to coming back next week, episode 53, Snowpiercer.
Looking forward to it.
Amazon Prime.
Not a sponsor. Okay, see ya?
Yeah, sure, goodbye.
Okay.